Good morning everyone. Today my group will present the topic of the public perception of national budget. In our introduction, generally, budgeting is a process of creating a plan to spend your money. Government budget is forecast by a government of its expenditure and revenue for a specific period of time and undergo in a fiscal year. In Malaysia, they have three types of budget, which is balanced budget, surplus budget, and deficit budget. Balanced budget is estimate government expenditure is equal to expected government receive in a particular fiscal year. Surplus budget is said to be a surplus budget if the expected government revenue exceeds the estimated government expenditure in a particular fiscal year, while deficit budget is inversely. Malaysia budget is divided into three components, which is revenue, developing expenditure, and operating expenditure. Revenue is come from the direct tax, non-direct tax, and non-tax revenue. However, operating expenditure is include enrollment, retirement charge, debt service charge, grant, and so on. Developing expenditure is include economic sector, social sector, security, and general administration. Tax applied in every country is act as a revenue and used to finance its expenditure for develop or running the country administration. While education sector is under social sector in development expenditure. Public perception can be seen as difference between an absolute truth based on fact and a virtual truth shaped by popular opinion. Public perception also gain to collect all messages through surrounding. Hence, government need to always consider public perception while doing any decision or policy. In other words, public perception also can define as public opinion. Political figures must also consider public perception while campaigning for office. In some situations, public opinion may occur through self-opinion, through certain case or situation, but it is not necessarily inaccurate or based on something other than the truth. This is because public often receive enough factual information in order to form a general opinion about a public figure, celebrating or industry without relying on unfounded rumors. In our assignment, we are going to understand the public perception, which is done people want something for nothing toward taxation and public spending done by government in California. We do need to approach those concepts to our country education sector budget and spending.
Greeting to Dr. Valley. In overview, I'm going to present the part 2 of the assignment, which is the analysis of the article. In general, the article is discussing about the public attitude towards the government taxing and spending in California. In the article, say that the public are not willing to pay for the tax while they think they are not demanding for the public service. And this situation also contributed by the California government that they are reliant on visible tax to finance government service rather than sheer magnitude of the tax burden of each rate of growth that create the intensive of tax reward in the affluent democracy. Hence, Proposition 13 are proposed by Gaviscon to overcome this situation. And the victory of Proposition 13 also contributed by California government themselves because they raised the visible property tax sharply and give a very high burden on their real income of the nation. Proposition 13 is a tax reform which describes property tax value was rolled back and frozen same level at years 1976 assessors value level, which is the property tax increase on any given property will limit to not more than 2% per year as long as the property tax was not sold. If the property sold, the property tax was reassessed as 1% of the sales price and 2% yearly cap become applicable to future year. This allows the property owner be able to estimate the amount of future property tax amount and determine the maximum amount taxes could increase as long as she or he own the property. However, several issues appear after the work of Proposition 13, such as is it the tax reward aimed at the amount of tax paid? And also, this article will going to explain the meaning of Proposition 13 means to the public or nation and related protests by analyzing the public opinion poll on the nature of people preference for public expenditure, which is public perception on government taxing and expenditure. Those explorations are going to do by the survey on the attitude of the nation towards the level of demand for public good and aggregate voting statistic. In this article, the phrase that raised by the author, which is something for nothing or do people want something for nothing, is trying to deliver the meaning. Is it the public wanted the government service but never paying anything? Instead, public not really demand something for nothing. It makes. And in this article, there are 3 anomalies provided by the author, which is price effect, demographic trait, and self-interest. And these 3 anomalies affect them towards the government spending and taxing. The first anomaly is price effect. Price effect means when the price of goods rise up, the effect will turn up a circumstance which when there are tax reduction means less service will be given by the government due to less government spending. If nation asks for more government spending to provide service, it will cause a higher tax fee charge, and conversely, if they ask for lower tax paying, they would definitely let go value service from government. The second anomaly is demographic trait. Different demographic trait will contribute to different opinion about the government spending and taxing. As example, from the article, homeowner and vice favorite to cutting back spending, while liberal were more supportive of increased spending than conversation, and also black will more encourage to increase the government spending. And for income side, for people who earn $200,000 per year compared to people who earn $10,000 per year has an opposition opinion on the public spending, because people who earn $200,000 per year will tend to demand to increase the level of expenditure in higher education. And the third anomaly is that mentioned by the author is self-interest. He say that self-interest is a natural starting point for analyzing support for government expenditure. And self-interest actually are including a complex of interest, value, identification of the personal, which example races, and the people decide where to stand on taxing and spending issue by undertaking a cost-benefit analysis of the trade-off between tax pay and service gain from the government, and then acting to maximize their personal utility. However, self-interest will be affected if the public ignorance and misinformation further complicated the task of inferring the role of self-interest in determining attitude toward tax and government spending. Whereas an individual perceived cost and perceived benefit is presumed to dictate his utility choice. As a conclusion from my part, public are not really demand something for nothing. It is mixed. And public perception is actually gathering by the 3 anomalies that I explained just now towards government spending, which is price effect, demographic trait, and self-interest. And the tax reform is actually for against the taxes that keep being rising and the people actually demanding tool for a more efficiency government. It forcing the people to make choice between raising tax and drastically cutting service, there will be a more definitely and more painful reversion of the level of demand for the public good than is currently possible, and it will probably is cutting back the service. Thank you.
Next, I will present my part which relating the survey result to Malaysian content. First, overall public is agreed that government is not putting supportive attention and spending on education sector. We have to agree that education sector is playing an important role in nowadays society that contributing to the society welfare, such as investing in human capital. Therefore, enough of attention and spending is necessary. But at the same time, increase the spending in education will eventually increase the tax rate in order to cover most of the expenses in provide better environment and equipment. From the analysis, we know that people with higher income are more opposed than people with lower income in increasing the spending in education, as we know that when the tax rate is increased, the personal tax will increase as well, especially for people that holding higher income. They don't want to bear with the responsibility for the people with lower income, therefore they oppose more in increase the public spending. Example, Malaysian government provide free schooling and free textbook for every student in national school, but by providing all these, the expenses will increase. Therefore, although there is some objection in increasing public spending, government also increased the public spending budget for education sector by 3.9 billion ringgit Malaysia in the latest 2020 budget compared to 2019 budget. Second, people want to increase the spending in education, but at the same time they want to reduce the tax rate. It is clearly that by reduce the tax rate, the public service that provided by government will decrease as well. So when the tax is decreased, the revenue will decrease, and in order to have balance or surplus budget, government have to decrease the spending as well. Furthermore, to increase the national debt, increased spending is not avoidable. From the survey, we know that 60.2% of people who want to cut down public service in order to save more money, but there is only 34.2% of people do not want to cut the public service. But by providing lesser social welfare, such as school program, opportunity of students will decrease as well. For example, Malaysian government provide programs such as co-curriculum activity in secondary school, aim to increase the general knowledge and increase the opportunity to help students explore wildlife. But in order to cover most of the expenses, government have to increase the tax rate in order to increase the tax revenue.
I would like to present the perception of public to the budget in education sector. In Malaysia, there is different rates cause school need to provide different language for teaching. In order to make sure each school provides same environment and same quality of equipment in teaching, government have to make equal spending in different schools. Besides, different race schools provide different type of teaching, but they will achieve the same objective in teaching. Fair and equal spending is allocated to different race schools to avoid racist issues occur in society. And last, government have to make sure every student get the same treatment in every school without any discrimination. According to survey, groups with high education level have different perception with others group, as they agree to increase the public spending on school and medical care. Besides, as technology develops, it shows that how important education is in forming a good citizen that can return in society welfare. For example, Malaysian students that have tertiary education have less possibility to migrate to other countries. By teaching and giving lessons on how to manage those resources available in a country together with financial management, can help a country achieve developed status and using resources efficiently to maximum the output. In Malaysia, high education level students will get job easily compared to students without higher education because they have better knowledge, and therefore Labor market in Malaysia is prefer tertiary education level, and it shows that tertiary education is now become a necessary for labor
So
to
now
enter
I
the
will talk
market.
about the comparison between American government and Malaysia government tax revenue and spending in education sector. We have examined and analyzed the budget of US and Malaysia from 2013 to 2017. Figure 1.1 is estimate tax revenue and government spending on sector education in US, while Figure 1.2 is Malaysia estimate tax revenue and government spending on sector education. Overall, the trend, the spending of education in US more likely consistent, but in 2017 and 2018, decreased, which is decreased $7,000 million and $5,000 million, while 2016, 2019, and 2020 is increasing, while increased $4,000 million, $1,000 million, and $4,000 million. However, in Malaysia, the trend of government spending on education is decreased. In 2016, 2017, and 2019, which is decreased, RM 1,200 million, RM 2,340 million, and RM 1,004 million. The rest of the year, like 2018 and 2020, is increasing, which is increased 9,200 million ringgit Malaysia and 3,900 million ringgit Malaysia. On the other side, the trend of estimate tax revenue in US is increasing from 2013 to 2017, which is same with the trend of Malaysia. But the difference between Malaysia and US is the trend of Malaysia is in 2017 and 2019, the tax revenue estimate is dropped, which is dropped 2,973 million ringgit and 15,417 million ringgit. In 2019, the tax revenue is dropped is due to the reason the new government replaced the old government and they are implement the zero-based budgeting. From these two figures, we can conclude that Malaysia allocate a lot of spending of education for every year compared US. In 2015, the government of Malaysia allocate around 30.54% from the revenue to the spending on education, while the spending of education US only around 2% from the revenue. In 2016, government estimate the tax revenue is increased in Malaysia, but the allocation of education from revenue is less than last year, which is 29.82%. However, in US, the estimate tax revenue is increased and the allocation of education also increased, but it just increased 0.04% from the previous year. The government Malaysia estimate the tax revenue was decreased and the spending on education also decreased in 2017. But the portion of education allocated is still bigger than US, which is 29.02%, while US just allocate 2.01% from the estimate tax revenue. In 2018, Malaysian allocation of education was increased sharply, which is 32.16% from the estimate tax revenue, while the US only allocate 1.85%, which is more or less than previous year. Moreover, in 2019, Malaysia government is changed the new government to replace the old government, and they started to do the zero-based budgeting. So the estimate tax revenue is decreased, but the spending on education increased to 34.18% from the estimate tax revenue, which is higher than this 6 year. However, the US spending on education still decreasing. Only 1.75% is allocated on education from estimate tax revenue. In 2020, Malaysia decreased the allocation of education from estimated tax revenue, which is allocated 33.75% from the estimated tax revenue, while the US increased their allocation of education, which is 1.82% from the estimated tax revenue. From this analysis, the increase of estimated revenue is not necessary to increase the spending on education. Even though the amount of estimated tax revenue and the amount of spending of education is larger than Malaysia, but in aspect of the portion of allocation of education from the revenue, Malaysia is greater than the US. This is because Malaysia is a developing country. The education is very important element to make Malaysia to become a developed country and make people of the country become more intelligent.
And for the next, I will present the impact of budget to education sector. Education sector is important to Malaysia. Thus, every year the Malaysian government will allocate more funds to the education sector in the budget. The allocation in the budget to the education sector has some impact to society. The first impact is to improve the education quality in Malaysia, because the allocation of the budget on the education sector will be used to upgrade and maintain all the schools. For example, in budget 2020, the government used RM 735 million for maintain and upgrade of the school, and the budget also will be used to develop and maintain facility in school. This makes the student can study in a comfortable surrounding. And second, the impact of budget in education sector is provide education opportunity to everyone. For example, in budget 2017, the government had allocated 350 million for school assistance program of 100 if to students for family earning below 30,000. Also, the government may provide 1.1 billion to include additional assistance payment for school fee, textbook assistance, and per capita grant assistance. Through the project, the students from lower income family will be able to study in the school. Not only at the primary level, the Malaysian government also provides some program in higher education level to the students from lower income family. For example, in the budget 2017, the government provides student debit card with value RM250 to higher education level student. And for the third impact, to the budget to the education sector also we used to develop human capital. Human capital is the skill, knowledge, and experience possessed by an individual. For example, in the budget 2018, the government will set out a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics center to develop the last learning method to train STME specialist teacher. In budget 2020, enforced to maintain technical and vocational education and training (TVET), the government had also increased the allocation from RM 4.7 billion in 2019 to RM 5.7 billion in 2020. Based on three important impacts, that is why the education sector will receive the largest fund in every year budget of Malaysia.
Overall, we can see that the allocation for the Ministry of Education is going to increase every year. The allocation increased from RM 56 billion in budget 2015 to RM 64.1 billion in budget 2020. To ensure the existing school provide a better learning education environment for children, the government will increase the allocation for school maintenance. For example, the allocation increased from RM 250 million in budget 2015 to RM 735 million in budget 2020. Government is focused on mainstreaming of the technical and vocational education and training, which is TVET program. The allocation increased from RM 1.2 billion in budget 2015 to RM 5.9 billion in budget 2020. The allocation for scholarships is increased every year from RM 2.9 billion in 2018 to RM 3.8 billion in 2019. In budget 2020, there are a total of RM 783 million is allocated on repairing the old school to ensure a comfortable learning environment, especially for schools in Sabah and Sarawak. In the Focus 2020, the allocation for Education Ministry is going to increase. To ensure the sustainability of PTPTN, the government plans to introduce a loan repayment with a salary deduction from 2% to 20% of the borrower's money income, depending on their income level. To encourage the loan repayment, students from P40 household who have successfully obtained the first-class honor in their study will enjoy the 30% discount on their loans. In conclusion, government has to play its roles to provide public education for the society. The ministry has to ensure that the process of governance, integrity, and channeling will be properly monitored.